Today we're going to be uh, talking about automation in the CRM, specifically how we can use automation tools that we have available to us in Zoho CRM to streamline the experiences for your users and your salespeople. Uh, and we're going to do that, like I said, by harnessing that power of our CRM automation tools. So, as Alex introduced, I am Matthew. I've been working with Zoho since 2018. And in that time, I've worked with CRM a lot. I've worked with Zoho One apps. And through all that experience, my favorite thing about any of our applications is the automation tools. And the reason is because I feel like the automation tools that we have are really what set our software and what set using Zoho CRM apart from something like just a series of spreadsheets. Uh, Automation tools that can reduce the amount of unnecessary tasks that your salespeople do, it's innumerably valuable. So our agenda for today, we're going to talk about how we can contextually automate our follow-ups using cadences in the CRM. Then we're going to move on and talk about increasing our operational efficiency using workflow rules and assignment rules. And we're going to finish on talking about further optimizing our processes with advanced automations. Specifically, we're going to cover custom functions and client scripts. Let's discover how Zoho CRM's automation tools can free your team to focus on what truly matters for your business, and that's closing more deals. We're going to be talking about a lot of topics today, and I know that at Zoholics so far, you guys have heard a lot of information. And so I want you to know my goal today is not for you to necessarily leave this session fully understanding every single one of the topics that we cover. My goal is for this to be a bit of a sampler platter. I want you to be able to see what's possible in the CRM. Maybe there's going to be one or two things in this that you can immediately apply to your organization, but maybe 2 weeks, 3 months, a year down the line, something's going to come up. And I hope that this presentation can pique your interest and that something's going to come up in that time frame later on. And I remember what Matthew was saying in that session. He mentioned this. He mentioned something about how I can automate this. And that's going to be able to help you to just further progress your organization along within the process of automating things and reducing unnecessary tasks. So in order to talk about this, I want to introduce to you Zilker Farms. This is not a real company, but they do have very real problems. And we're going to be using their experience and their journey through using Zoho CRM as a way to talk about the different automation tools that we have on offer. So a little background on Zilker Farms. They are an organic produce growing company, and they primarily work with farmers markets as a reseller. They also have some direct to consumer, and they work with restaurants and other local grocery stores and things of that nature with their sales. Currently, they're just starting out in the CRM. And while they're starting out in the CRM, their salespeople have a lot of manual processes that they're involved with. Take Rebecca, for example. Rebecca is working with leads. She's one of the junior salespeople, and she's processing, let's say, 15 leads a day. That means she's sending 15 emails to those 15 leads on Monday. The next day on Tuesday, she's sending 15 more emails out to leads, but she also has to follow up with the first 15 leads. And she has to maybe set tasks to help her to remember those things. She's working with those leads on Wednesday. Maybe she's making a deal with one of the first leads, but she's also had to follow up with the remainder of those leads that she's been working with. And you can see how this goes is the work stacks up on her, and she's not able to spend as much time on the phone calling the customers who are actually engaged and interested to make those sales. A lot of time is spent on these manual processes, and as a result, some leads are slipping through the cracks and money's being left on the table. How can we solve this? Well, one way we can solve this problem is by contextually automating our follow-ups using cadences in Zoho CRM. Cadences allow us to configure a series of actions. These can be tasks that are created. These can be emails that are sent out. But we're able to configure these in a series where a customer who enters into a cadence is going to flow from one stage to the next automatically. And we can set that to be happening immediately. For example, in this cadence, as soon as the lead is enrolled in the cadence, they're going to be assigned a task The task is going to be assigned to the lead owner. So Rebecca's going to get a task telling her to reach out. So maybe she emails, maybe she calls. It's going to be a personal way to reach out. After that task is marked as completed, we're going to wait 2 days. And after that 2 days, we're going to automatically send an email to that person. And it's going to be personalized because we're using one of our email templates. Then, as a response to that email, some of the users, or some of the leads rather, might respond to the email immediately. Some of them might respond after a couple days. We're going to wait 5 days, and if it's sent after 5 days but not replied or opened or otherwise interacted with, we're going to send our follow-up task to our user to follow up with this lead. But say our customer replies. Instead of waiting a further amount of time, we're going to immediately trigger our task after they reply so that the task is created and we can follow up with them sooner because they've interacted with our email. And so this is taking out of the equation Rebecca's need to manually go in and check this lead and see, has this lead replied to our email or have they not? If they have, do I need to reply to them right now? Do I need to wait a little while? This is taking that guesswork out of the equation, and it's allowing her to focus on instead just contacting those who she needs to contact on that day. This also helps us to streamline and unify our processes a little bit so that instead of having 3 different salespeople who have 3 different processes, we have one process that our leads go through. And this helps to provide a unified way that we present our company to our customers. We're also able to manage each Cadence's audience based on custom criteria. What this means is we're able to refine who is sent these emails or what contacts are applied into a cadence based on criteria within that record. This can look like using a custom view. So in this example, maybe we have a cadence set up for our deals module. We want to have deals that are closing this month to enter into our cadence because we want to make sure that those deals don't stall out. We want to make sure that during the last month of our deal process that we are focusing our follow-ups so they're effective and that the deal is able to move to be closed. We're wanting to enroll new records automatically when this happens. So say I have a deal and the closing date is set a month away. As soon as we enter into that last month, as soon as we qualify for this cadence, it's going to enter into that. If we have an email that's sending out, that email will send out as soon as they qualify. If we have a task that's being created, that'll be created instead. We also, and just as importantly, really, we also have the ability to unenroll records from cadences automatically based on criteria. So in this case, if they no longer fit that record view, so say maybe in our custom view, we have criteria set up so that it is our deals that are not closed yet, so they're not closed won, not closed lost, and we have a deal that does get closed won, and so we've won that deal. Well, we don't want them to receive 6 more emails or however many more emails are set up in this, prompting them to contact us or helping them to close the deal because we've already done that. We don't want to send them excess emails. Same thing if it's a closed lost deal. We don't want to send them additional emails then as well. And we can set other factors for our unenrollment as well, such as their interactions with our follow-ups. So you can see there at the top of the section there, if we send an email, and maybe it's the third email that we've sent, and we have never received a reply from them, they've never clicked on the email, they never even opened the email as far as we're able to tell, we're going to stop sending them emails at that point. We don't want to inundate them with our emails. We want to stop whenever it's ready to stop, and this is going to be able to unenroll them automatically. We also do have the ability to create cadences that are manually entered, and that gives us the finite control to manually select records and enter them into a cadence where they're going to go through our process. We can also use the reporting tools that are available for cadences to help to boost our engagement and refine our strategy. What I mean by that is that whenever we finish a cadence and it's been entered and we have it been active for a little while, we can go in and see what's the performance like for these emails. Where are things stalling? Where are people becoming unengaged? Maybe what is especially effective. And we can use those insights to further refine our strategy and eliminate the wrinkles in our processes. Okay, so that's a lot of good information about cadences, but when should you think about using cadences? Well, here are 4 quick and easy use cases. Lead nurturing. That's probably the most obvious use case. Whenever a new lead comes in, We can tailor our lead nurturing process. One thing we can do is we can set up different cadences for different types of leads. Let's think of Zooker Farms. In that example, we might have some of our leads are going to be our business leads, maybe restaurants in the area or grocery stores. Some of our leads are going to be individual consumers for our direct to consumer business. We can have a different process set up for each of those different types of leads based on the criteria that are in the record and the custom views that we have set up. We can also help to boost our customer engagement. Maybe we want to interact with our contacts, our customers who have already purchased our products, and we want to maintain our engagement with them so that we're keeping on their minds, we're able to upsell them, we're able to continue our business with the people that we've already worked so hard to begin our business with. We can use cadences for that. We can also use them for deals. Like I mentioned, we can use cadences to help prevent deals from stalling in the process. If maybe you find that throughout the deal-making process, there is a particular stage where most of your deals seem to get stuck on, we can focus in on that stage and send a series of emails or create a series of tasks for our salespeople to perform that will help to get those deals out of those stalled stages. And the last is task flows, and this is one that I used to help customers solve by creating a series of workflow rules, which we'll talk about in just a second. But a series of workflow rules that created tasks, and then as soon as the task was closed, it created a new task, and it went on, and it took about 10 workflow rules to accomplish. We're now able to do this with a single cadence, where we're able to set up a series of tasks. So maybe this cadence isn't involved with the customer at all; it's entirely an internal process. Maybe you're using CRM for everyone, and you are inviting other teams into the CRM, and we're talking about a legal team who has a contract they need to gather information for and develop and then send out to the customer. So maybe we have a series of tasks that we create as soon as our customer enters into a status where we need to get the legal team involved. And so we can create that series of tasks, and based on the results of those tasks or some of the information that's input while these tasks are going out, we can then branch out and have different paths as well, because this doesn't have to be just a single flow. It can be a branching path. And I think that's where a lot of the power of cadences lies. Okay, so let's check back in with Zoker Farms. They started using cadences, and they've reduced some of the manual processes, but as they have expanded their business, they're noticing that there's other bottlenecks that are being created by their expansion. Perhaps they started out in a single region of the area that they're in, and now they have 3 different regions. And so we're going to talk about how we can increase operational efficiency with automated rules. So as they've expanded into multiple different regions, this can be geographical regions, this can be account size. When we think about different sizes of accounts, maybe some people work with large accounts, some people work with small accounts. This could be areas of your business. Maybe we're talking about vegetables versus people work with fruits and people work with other goods. The lead assignment becomes a chore whenever we have 10, 20, 30, 100, 500 leads coming in, and we have to manually assign those out to the people who we think should be interacting with them. If we're manually doing that, that's a lot of manual work that we're able to eliminate using our assignment rules. So let's check in a little bit on Zoker Farms again. We have Peter, Mary, and Paul, who are 3 of our salespeople, and we can just see the different types of regions they may represent. And maybe these are 3 individuals, maybe they're sales heads, and we have entire teams that we're needing to assign these out to. With assignment rules, we can solve this problem. Assignment rules allow us to route new records to the appropriate users. And this can be done individually. Maybe we're routing all of our Eastern region records to Peter. Maybe we're routing all of our larger accounts to Paul. This can also be done in a round-robin fashion with a group of users. So if these 3 instead represent entire departments, we can add their entire department into the assignment rule, and we will, instead of assigning everything to Peter and then he has to assign things out to his team, we can have it so that it signs things out in a round-robin fashion, weighting it so that each person gets equal amounts of leads assigned whenever we add in a group of 100 leads or something like that. We can even build assignment rules so that they take into account the online status of our users. So if Peter's out for the day, we won't assign anything to him in that day. If uh, someone has a lead threshold that they've achieved, so maybe we've assigned 20 to Paul, we're not going to assign any more to him. We're going to assign those to other people until everyone kind of evens out. These are things that we can do with assignment rules to help automate that process of getting the records in your CRM assigned to the person who's going to be the best to interact with that lead. And this isn't just for the leads module. We can create assignment rules for contacts modules, the contacts module, the deals module, cases module, and any custom modules that you've created as well. So this can get really creative with custom modules with whatever process your business has. If we're talking about assigning new records, this is possible using assignment rules. And this doesn't have to be manually entered leads or manually entered records. This can be imported records or records that are brought in through integrations as well. Okay, let's continue talking about our next topic. So as processes are evolving at Zilker Farms, repetitive and time-consuming tasks are becoming more visible and more impactful in their day-to-day. Perhaps they have a process with their leads where they work, with their deals, where they work with a deal for a certain amount of time, and if they find that the deal amount is greater than $10,000, they hand that off to a specialized salesperson, Mark, who is the person who handles their large deals. So they may have a junior salesman who works with all deals, and then as soon as they reach that point, that threshold, they want it to get automatically assigned to Mark. But right now it's having to happen manually. And maybe the junior salesperson doesn't even have permissions to assign the record to someone else, so they have to get the manager involved. We're able to handle this and many other scenarios with workflow rules. I like to think of workflow rules as set it and forget it automation that does the work for your users. When we configure a workflow rule, we're telling it to listen for an event, and as soon as that event happens, it's going to perform an action for any records that meet the criteria we have set up. This can look like a lot of different things. So we can use workflow rules in many different scenarios. The first that I have here is updating the owner for that deal, like I mentioned. So as soon as the deal hits a certain threshold for the amount, we want it to automatically get assigned, and we want to go ahead and create a task for Mark as well so that he can make sure that he follows up with this new big deal. Perhaps we want to send an email to our accounts automatically or an email to our contacts automatically whenever their account status changes. We can perform this with a workflow rule where maybe as soon as the deal is closed, our account is being changed from a potential status to an active status. And at that time, we want to send an email to the customer, to the contact that we've been working with, to let them know, thank you for doing business with us. Thank you for choosing us. Here's whatever maybe follow-up information you might need to know with your new purchase. We want to do that automatically. We can do that with workflow rules. A little more advanced, let's say 9 months after our original deal is closed, we want to send out an email and create a new deal so that we can process a renewal. Maybe for our direct-to-consumer business with Zilker Farms, we have a subscription model, and it's annual. And so at the end of every year, about 3 months before their current contract would expire, let's reach out to them. Let's create a new deal. Let's begin that process of working with them to continue our business with them. Because I think we all know that continuing business is one of the best ways to keep our revenue up and increasing revenue. We also have connected workflows that are being introduced, and these are going to be working specifically with our team modules within CRM for Everyone to automate processes as your different teams are working with each other and sending records between those different team modules. Okay, so let's have a quick demo and show you exactly what it looks like to have some of these workflow rules in action. Okay, so here's our first workflow rule. This is the rule for that first scenario where we are engaging with a deal and the deal reaches a certain threshold. So we have this set up so that as soon as the amount is greater than or equal to $10,000 and the deal owner already isn't Mark Stone, we're going to assign that user to Mark Stone, and we're going to create a task and associate it with Mark. And so we can see that here by going into the deal, and we can see currently the deal owner is me. I've been working on this, and I've got it to the point where we're at the needs analysis, but on that call with them, maybe I realize, oh, okay, with their needs, instead of this being a $6,500 deal, this is going to be twice that. We're thinking about $13,000 at least for this deal. So I enter in my amount, and I go to save it. And at that point, we're going to see the deal owner automatically changes to Mark Stone. And you can see that update live on the page. And if we refresh the page, we'll see that that task was also automatically created and assigned to Mark so that he can now follow up on this deal. And all that's happening automatically with workflow rules. We also have a lot of other actions we can perform with this. So I'm showcasing assigning an owner and creating a task. But if we wanted to create that deal, like I mentioned, and have that deal be created automatically with information from the current deal, but with a closing date that is a year in advance, we can do that by using our create record action. We can also assign or remove tags from records. We can send email notifications. There are so many different things that we can do. And most of these, until we get to the bottom three, they're a little more advanced, and we'll cover some of those later. But a lot of these require no coding experience or anything like that. It's as simple as clicking on the option and then filling out the form. So if we wanted to create a new record, we would be able to begin that right here and just be able to fill in the information, even including information from within our deal. And all that is done through workflow rules. And really, workflow rules is where the automation begins to really become powerful. And we'll talk about how we can even expand that further in just a moment with our next topic. Okay, so we've gotten to the place where we've been able to utilize cadences to help smooth out our lead nurturing process and any other processes that we have had lots of manual tasks within. We've been able to help to reduce our bottlenecks and ease up the load on those bottleneck situations using our workflow rules and our lead assignment rules. But now Zilker Farms is ready to further optimize processes with advanced automations. And we're going to talk about custom functions and client scripts here. Custom functions and client scripts are what allow us to build beyond the limits with custom code, and it supercharges what we're able to do in the CRM. When I'm talking about custom functions and client scripts, these are our custom automation options where we're building out code, and that code is going to be executed within the CRM at different points. There's some differences between the two that we'll cover, but both of these options allow us to build custom integrations across the CRM. We are able to build integrations across the Zoho ecosystem and even beyond into third-party systems as well, using these two tools. And if we're using canvas views as well, we'll talk about this a little bit, but canvas views are especially powerful whenever we get client scripts involved. So what are the differences between these two? Both of them do use code. Custom functions are going to use our proprietary Deluge coding script. You can also use Node.js or Java. So if you have developers who are familiar with those, and they can use those coding languages instead. And our custom functions are going to be able to trigger automations using workflow rules. We're able to trigger automations using custom buttons where we can manually press a button on a list view with a list of selected records and perform a custom action. We can do this on an individual record and still perform a custom action. We can also apply and use custom functions in the transitions after blueprints. So if you have a blueprint which you're using to lock down a process, whenever they transition from one state to the next, during that transition, we can trigger a custom function. And what that can do is the possibilities are almost endless. Client scripts, on the other hand, are going to be used using JavaScript code. And it's going to be performing actions that are more front side. I guess custom functions, most of those actions are going to be happening behind the scenes. After you save a record, after you click a button, after you perform an import, then custom functions can be run. Client scripts are run on the page that you're on. So let's say, for example, you have open a lead on the CRM and you want to interact with the UI element on that page. Maybe we'll show this in just a little bit. Maybe you want to restrict when a lead can be converted so that the lead cannot be converted. That button cannot be pressed until certain information is filled in on that lead, because you've had a lot of leads that get converted but don't have the necessary information for the next steps to be performed. We can do that with client scripts. We can also input data onto the page when we're creating a record. Whenever we are doing something, and this is one thing we'll show as well, if we're creating something like a quote and we want the quote's line items to be automatically filled in with information that we already put onto the deal, we can do that with a client script before we save the record. So the distinction between custom functions and client scripts that I want you to remember is that custom functions can happen after things are saved, after things are clicked, after some actions occur, and client scripts can happen on the page that you're on before you save a record. Let's talk a little bit more about custom functions and some of the use cases we can have with them. Let's say that we have our account, we're working with our account, and at some point while we're working with our accounts, we realize their address has changed. We need to make sure we update that in the system so that whenever we're sending them any of our correspondence, or if we're shipping them packages or anything like that, that we're shipping them to the right location. But when we update it on the account, maybe we know our contacts are all at the same physical location as the account. If we want that address information to propagate from the account to all of our contacts automatically, we can use custom functions to do that. And it's going to be able to take the data we entered into the account and copy that to the contact. Another great use case for this is within our leads module. When we're working with our leads, inevitably, we're not going to have a 100% conversion ratio. That means that some of our leads are going to be lost or junk leads. And those leads likely have some tasks that may be open for them, or a meeting that we had scheduled for a week in advance. But maybe after we schedule that meeting, after we set up those tasks, we realize on a call, we're actually not a good fit for them. Or maybe they go with another vendor, they go with someone else. And so we've lost that lead. Whenever we lose that lead, we want to make sure that any of those tasks and meetings that are created get deleted automatically. So we don't have to go in and manually delete those. They're not staying on our schedule. But we're able to do that automatically whenever we change that lead from a active lead to an inactive lead. Another great custom function that I was able to help a customer with recently was integrating Zoho CRM a little bit more connectedly with Zoho projects. They specifically wanted to be able to have information that's entered onto a deal sync to the details of a project in Zoho projects. The project was already associated, they already have their tasks created, they're already working on the project, but sometimes information on the deal changed, and they want to make sure that that information was reflected on the project details as well. They also wanted any attachments that their salespeople were adding in the deal to get synced to projects as well. And so we were able to set up a custom function that triggered whenever the project or whenever the deal is updated, and it synced that information and those attachments to Zoho projects. And we can do that with other Zoho applications or third-party applications. Like I said, there's a lot of great opportunities for custom integrations that we can do with custom functions. Now let's pivot a little bit and talk about client scripts a little bit more before we have a last demo. So client scripts, what are some times and some opportunities where we can think about using client scripts? Well, like I said, client scripts are going to trigger on the page that we're on. So we can use this to automatically fill in the line items for a quote based on the products that we already worked on and associated with the deal. So we don't have to redo that information. We can also use it to hide certain UI elements or disable a button like the convert button for leads like we talked about. And we can even use it to highlight and change the styling of the page so that, like you can see on the screen, so that our accounts that meet a certain criteria are highlighted in blue whenever we're looking at them on the list page. So we can know at a glance that these accounts are important. They have employee sizes that are larger, so maybe we're going to focus on them a little bit more because we know that deal is potentially a little bit larger. And we can do that with client scripts. Okay, so let's take a look and see some custom functions and some client scripts in action. So this custom function, specifically, we're going to look at closing the tasks once the lead status is moved to junk lead, lost lead, or not qualified. This is activating off of a simple workflow rule that the action is the custom function. And so let's go to our lead, Ramsey Martland, who's the lead that we've been working with. And up to this point, we have a couple of calls scheduled with him, and we have tasks that we're using to keep track of that. And we're going to send a proposal to him by May 22nd. We also, if we go down to the activities, we can see we have a meeting scheduled with him for next week on May 21st at 9 a.m. But through our contact with this lead, let's go ahead and move the status from not contacted to lost lead. And then we'll refresh the page and we'll see that our activities are going to be deleted, and that way that they're not in our schedule anymore, they're not showing up on the CRM anymore, they're gone. We're not having to worry about them because for this lead, we don't need that anymore. And so that all happens automatically because of that workflow rule in tandem with the custom function. Um, let's take a look at our client script in action real quick as well. So in this use case, we're first going to look at a client script that is going to be bringing the products that we have associated with our deal. So here's our deal here. If we go down to our products, you can see we have 3 products that we've associated with this deal already. And we want to automatically fill in those products whenever we create our quote. So if we go to our quote to create the quote, this is triggering on load of the page. So you could see right there, as soon as this page loaded in, the client script ran and it filled in the line items in this quote with the data from the products that we had associated with our deal already. So this is eliminating the need to go in and find these products in the line items. Instead, we can jump right to adjusting the quantities, adjusting the prices, working with the customer for actually making that deal and closing this quote. And the last client script I have to show for you today is going to be in relation to hiding that convert button. So up here right now, we have our convert button. I can convert this lead. I click that button, it's going to convert the lead, it's going to go through that process. If I wanted to stop that process for any reason, I wanted to hide this button, then we can do that with a client script. I have a client script set up here so that if I was to go and change our street so that instead of being filled in, it's blank, or I make that change, the button's now disabled and I can't convert this lead. And the only way I can change that to fix it so that I can convert again would be to enter back in my information and then it pops back in. And this is done with our client script. And there's many, many, many other applications we can use for this. I mentioned a little while ago, but if we use canvas views, client scripts are really supercharged whenever it comes to our canvas views because we're able to add more elements and interact with more of those elements on the page. I think that earlier in the session, they mentioned that we can have entire messages fly into the page. So you have an entire component that shows up only whenever certain criteria is met, or only whenever they push a custom button or something like that. I actually am working with another client on some canvas view buttons where they have added some buttons to the canvas view, and they want, whenever a user clicks on those buttons, they want a certain web tab to open up, or they want a certain action to occur. And we're able to do that with client scripts as well. And so there's a lot of powerful applications, like I said, with client scripts that we can perform within the CRM, both manipulating the data and the UI itself. Thank you guys for your time.